Rob on the mic, spitting truth from the heights. Queens unite under stadium lights. Bright nights, 7 train rides. Dreams born in the real hum. Brooklyn to Queens, yeah, we all about that outcome. This our time, this our cheer. Mets talk loud, bring the hype, make it clear. From the boroughs to the field, this our year. Queens in the house, let the world hear. From Flushing Meadows, echoes bounce off the bat. Rob calls, take the mic, snaps like a thunderclap. Home runs over bridges, no gaps in the story. Mets rise, reclaiming the glory. 7 the city, blue and orange army swarm. Summer vibe electric, love in every form. From Biggie's blocks to Flushing's heartbeat. Our anthem loud, no retreat. This our time, this our cheer. Mets talk loud, bring the hype, make it clear. From the boroughs to the field, this our year. Queens in the house, let the world hear. The apple pops in the outfield, city of dreams. Rob's voice over static, Mets on every stream. White lines mapped out the future, vividly. From shade to city, the journey's never gimmicky.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Mets Talk Live right here on the channel and, of course, on X. How is everybody doing on this early afternoon Thursday as the Mets return home for 7 games against the Cardinals and the Phillies? But we got a lot to talk about in regards to the road trip, the struggles of the Mets offense. What should we expect and what do we need to see from our New York Mets in this homestand? And a little bit about Jeff McNeil and is he a center field option for the New York Mets? And we'll definitely get into all of that, but make sure you hit that like button, guys, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a new subscriber, say what's up in the chat. You will get a shout out, and we'll get started right away, guys. Obviously, our New York Mets lost the final series of the road trip against a not very good Minnesota Twins. 2 out of 3 they lost, and it was a very frustrating 2 out of 3. Now, I want to give you some numbers because of the fact that it is a little alarming, but it's probably not a little alarming. It's very alarming with the New York Mets and why they've lost some games, if not most of their games that they lost this season, is because of this number. But once again, this is the second road trip of the year for the New York Mets. What is the most important thing on a road trip? When you're playing games on the road, you want to come back. Obviously, you want to do better, but if you are 500 on the road, that is where you need to be. All you got to do is take advantage of your homestands, and the Mets so far in their first homestand were 5-1. In both road trips this year, they were 3-3. Houston and Miami, and now it was at the Athletics and Minnesota. So they're both 3-3 on both road trips. So that's good. Obviously, the Twin series was very frustrating because it could have easily been a 4-2 road trip, maybe even a 5-1 road trip, but it wasn't that. Now, the Mets gave them a little bit of wiggle room because of their pretty good start to start the season, as they were, 4, 5, 6 games over 500, and obviously these last couple of losses put them only 4 games over 500. But the main goal here, or the main goal in a season, and the Mets are still on pace for 99 wins this year, so it's not like it's the end of the world, but there is some concerns with the New York Mets. So they were 3-3 on the road, and they're 6-6. They're exactly 500 on the road this season when they've played games on the road. At home, obviously, they're 5-1. So those two things are what you need from the New York Mets. You need them to play just slightly average baseball on the road. Obviously, you always want more. But again, if you can get the 500 on the road in road trips and come back home and do what you need to do at home, and be above 500 at home, you're on pace for 95-plus victories. That is just how the math works, and that's what the New York Mets have to continue to do, right? They should have won more games against they should have swept the Athletics. They should have took 2 out of 3 against the Minnesota Twins, but guess what? It's baseball. They did not do that, and we'll get into why they didn't do that specifically against the Twins, and it's becoming a very, very clear and frustrating for New York Mets fans about this New York Mets offense. And what I just said earlier is I'm going to give you a couple of numbers here and this only goes for the Twins series. Firstly, 17, 12, 15. What is that total? That's total of 44. So 17, 15, and 12. That total number is 44. What is that number and why is it so important? All right. Well, the 44 is how many runners the Mets left on base in this Twin series, in this Minnesota series. 44. 44 runners left on base in a 3-game series. And to go over these numbers a little bit more, yesterday they left 17 men left on base. 17 men. They scored 3 runs. So just do the math. They were 3 for 20 with men on base. That is not a good stat. And a big reason why they lost yesterday. And we'll get into, especially get into yesterday's game of how many guys were actually left on base in each of these games and how many players left guys on base, and you'll see who the culprits are. The day before, 12 men left on base. That's another problem. Obviously, they didn't score that many runs in that game either. The game they won, they left 15 men left on base. You are not going to continue to win games if you continue to leave that many runners left on base. And I'm going to go over each game right now and show you exactly what the issue was when it comes to what has been going on with this team. All right, give me 1 second. Let me just make sure. Okay, here we go. All right, so yesterday's game, guys. Lindor didn't leave anybody on, but still wasn't very good. Made a couple of errors in a series. That has been a big problem for Lindor in the beginning of the series. Juan Soto, 5 left on base. Winker, 3 left on base. Nimmo, 2 left on base. Acuna, 3 left on base. Beatty and Senga, 1 apiece. That totaled 17 men. All right. That is a huge number, and that cannot happen. So that's the first thing. So Juan Soto left the most in 5. Then it was Luis Acuna with 3, Jesse Winker with 2, and everybody else kind of had like 1 or 2, 1 run left on base. So there's the problem right there in just this game. It was nice to see them come back and tie the ball game up, but again, they didn't do nothing in the top in extra innings. So it was pointless at that point. And Brandon Nimmo and Jesse Winker were a big part of that because they decided to swing at the first pitch after Alonso worked that walk. So that was a problem, within itself. That has to change. That has to continue to change for Juan Soto, has to change for Brandon Nimmo, has to change. Those guys got to get going. It is hurting this team. It's not even just hurting this team. It's killing this team. And that's how you lose against bad teams like the Minnesota Twins. That is how you lose a series. Not just a game. You lost the series to one of the worst teams in baseball at this point. So that's a problem. We go to the next game. All right. Lindor left 4 men on base. Juan Soto 1, Alonso 1, Marte 2, Nimmo 1, Terens 1, Winker 1, Acuna 1. So again, Lindor, the second game of the series, left 4 men left on base. Got to be better. Just has to be better. And look, and that continues to be what is not working for this team at all. They left 12 men in that middle game of the series. 12 men in that game. Lastly is the first game. 3 for Lindor, 3 for Soto, 5 for Brandon Nimmo, 2 for Mark Vientos, 1 from Winker, 1 from Taylor. So your top 5 in the order left 7, 10, 13 men left on base. That is your top 5. 7 men left on, yes, that's how much it is, right? 13 men left on base for the top 5 guys in your order in Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, and Vientos. Again, Alonso has been great. He didn't leave no men left on base in that game. But again, nobody's killing Alonso here, right? If you left 1 or 2 guys left on base, he's done more than enough to carry this team. So he's not going to get the brunt of this at all. It's the other guys. Again, your top 5 left 13 men left on base in the first game of the series that they won. And they won in, pretty easy fashion for the most part. And they still left that many, 17 men left, 12 men left on, 15 men left on base in that game. So that is the issue that this team has to figure out. You can't continue to have this problem and expect the pitching to continue to hold up every single game, because eventually they're going to crack, and they did. In this series, they weren't bad by any means, but they started to crack a little bit. They started to give a couple of more hits. They gave up a couple of more runs. You've seen that. And then we find out that there's been, there was this whole story with Juan Soto, and I think it's bigger than I think it's a lot less of a problem than the media is letting on. I don't think the comments were the comments. Who cares? We all know Aaron Judge is not better, is the best hitter in baseball. We all know that. There is nobody that can, meet up with him. Obviously, Alonso has been just as good this year, so the protection for Juan Soto is there. But it is true that Juan Soto is getting pitched differently than he was last year. That's a fact. So, but again, he has to adjust. You can get paid $800 million to not adjust. Too bad. You got to figure it out. If you don't, well, you're going to hear it from us. And you're going to continue to hear it from us. And you're going to get a lot of backlash from the Met fans. If you don't like it, well, maybe you should have thought about signing that contract in New York, no matter if it was with the Yankees or the New York Mets. So, too bad, right? I have no sympathy for you, right? I love that we signed you. I think it was important for the New York Mets franchise as a whole, but you have to be better. Too bad. Adjust. You're a great hitter. We all know that. Prove it, right? This is a time where you're the highest paid player on the team, and they expect you to be one of the best players on this team, and you got to show it. That's it. That is what you need to do. And again, he's not alone. Brendan Nimmo has been terrible, absolutely terrible. And this is a thing that I've been talking about for years with Brandon Nimmo. This has been a 2.5 to 3 year issue with Brandon Nimmo, who doesn't change his approach anymore. He continues to strike out at an alarming rate. His on base is down. His average is down. And I'm sorry, is Brandon Nimmo going to hit more than 24 home runs this year? Because if he didn't, then we should be talking about the on base. We should be talking about the average. We should be talking about what Brandon Nimmo was great at, and now he is mediocre and just an average player, in my opinion. That's what he is. He is like everybody else in Major League Baseball who can hit a decent amount of home runs with no average, and everybody gives him credit for what? Because he smiles? I'm sick of that. Brandon Nimmo has been one of my problems with this whole team. And it's going on for a couple of years now. Brandon Nimmo has been part of the problem, not all, but part of the problem of the Mets' demise over the last couple of seasons. He was the problem. 2022 was everything that you wanted to see from Brandon Nimmo. He started to hit for power. His average was still there. His average did go down from other years, but it was still in the range where it's like, all right, I can deal with that with a little bit more power. His on base was pretty good. His strikeout was a little bit higher than you would like. But again, everything that you want to see, his on base was still good. His contact was still good. He was still hitting balls the other way, hitting the ball gap to gap, and he was providing a little bit more power. So it was the all-around guy you really wanted. And then in 2023 and 2024, he turned into a complete zero. He only hits for, I'm not even going to call it power. I'm sorry. If you hit less than 25 home runs, I'm not considering you a power hitter at all. I'm sorry. And Brandon Nimmo, I never considered the power hitter. The Mets try to make him a power hitter. We can blame the Mets as much as you want, but this has been 3 different managers with Brandon Nimmo. This has been a problem with Nimmo as a whole. So I'm not blaming the hitting coach. I'm not blaming the manager, because what I seen from Pete Alonso this year is the exact opposite of the problem I had with Pete Alonso last year. Always trying to swing for the fences, not trying to adjust at the plate, and he ended up having a bad season in Pete Alonso's sense. He completely changed his approach this year, and it's making him one of the best hitters in baseball this year. And if it wasn't for Pete Alonso, who knows where the Mets would be record-wise. So if Pete Alonso can do it, and clearly, do you think the coaches only said, hey, Pete Alonso, you should change your approach at the plate and not say nothing to Brandon Nimmo, or not say nothing to Mark Vientos or anybody else? Of course they did. So here lies the fact that it's up to the individual player. And in my opinion, you don't have to agree, but I think Brandon Nimmo is being stubborn. I truly believe that he thinks he's a power hitter. He's not. Everything that he was good at, everything that we liked about Brandon Nimmo is down tremendously and at an alarming rate. Strikeouts are up, average is down, walks are down. Just him hitting more doubles and just getting on base. Again, he's been they've been putting him in a cleanup spot because there's really nowhere to put him, to be quite honest with you. But it's been absolutely disgusting what Brandon Nimmo has not done. And until Brandon Nimmo changes his approach, which I don't see any evidence of him doing so, we're going to continue to talk about this. This guy shows up for 2 months out of the year, and then the rest of the season is a no-show. Most of his numbers come within 2 months of a hot streak, and that's it. There's nothing else. You just hope that it's maybe 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks over here to split it up throughout a season, but that's not Brandon Nimmo anymore. He'll have a great May. He'll be terrible in June and July. He might show up in August, and then it'll be a no-show in September. Like, pick 2 months out of the year, Brandon Nimmo will be your hottest hitter. After that, it's a no-show. And the majority of his RBIs, the majority of his runs, majority of his home runs is going to be coming in those hot streaks in those 2 months. That is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I don't care what anybody says. If Pete Alonso can change his approach completely different from last year, why can't Brandon Nimmo? Mark Vientos is having the same problem that we complained about with Pete Alonso last year. He swings at everything off the plate, especially away. He tries to go after every pitch. Vientos has the problem right now that Pete Alonso had last year. And again, you can fire Chavez, you can fire Barnes, you can fire any hitting coach you want, but it's up to the player to stop being stubborn and change your approach when it's not working. This isn't a 2-week issue. This has been a 2-year issue with Brandon Nimmo. That has to stop. It has to change at some point. And then Mendoza, Mendoza has been better this year. I like his bullpen usage. Mendoza has gotten a lot better with his bullpen changes. Is what he does with his bullpen that was a problem last year. He's really good at that. But at some point, you got to move Brandon Nimmo out of the 4 or 5 spot. It's killing this team, especially when Mark Vientos is right around the corner, also not doing nothing. Now, you can't blame Mendoza for Nimmo and Vientos not changing their approach. So you got to put them in a lineup somewhere. How far are you going to move these guys down? Are you going to move up Luis Torrens over them or Luis Acuna? I mean, you could. You absolutely could. But are they going to do that? Probably not. I mean, the lineup probably comes out in a couple of hours. Pretty good chance Brandon Nimmo's batting 4th or 5th. Like, that has been the problem, and this has been the main problem with this offense in the middle of this order, right? Juan Soto has been part of the problem. But when Nimmo and Vientos has the most men left on base of the entire team, where are they batting? Most of the time, they're batting 4th or 5th. A couple of times, Vientos batted 6th this year, but Nimmo has batted 4th or 5th all the time he played. So where are we going to go here, right? Somebody's got to wake up. You can't leave that many guys left on base and think this offense is going to take off. Because if the middle of the lineup, I don't care what Lindor and I don't care what Juan Soto does. Even if Juan Soto and Lindor go nuts, and even if Pete Alonso goes nuts, and even get on base for these guys and do their job and maybe drive in a couple of runs, you still got your 4 or 5 hitters that are complete zeros. So I just don't get it. Brandon Nimmo got paid what he got paid and was almost gone from the Mets because of what he was doing. He showed a little bit more power, but everything that Brandon Nimmo was good at was still there in his hitting approach. The on base, the average, right? And then he put that home run into his arsenal a little bit more, which would be fine, right? I would rather not have him hit 23 home runs, hit 5 home runs less, but have your on base drastically higher, lower your strikeouts, and up your average a little bit more. Like I would take that because Brendan Nimmo doesn't hit multi, 2 or 3 run homers. He hits solo home runs. He barely ever hits a home run with people on base. His 4 home runs this year have been all solo home runs. Yeah, Keith, it has nothing to do with Nimmo getting older. It's his approach. Like, yeah, he is getting older. I agree with that. But he still should be a very damn good player. This has nothing to do with his age. Yeah, Joel, exactly. That's the problem. I don't want 24 home runs and batting 205. I think that's a terrible. That's not a good player. I'm sorry. That's not considered the power hitter, in my opinion. It's not. Like, what is he going to have? 24 home runs. He's going to have, what, probably 75, 80 RBIs. It looks good. Like, again, for all the nutcase analytical people, they're going to say, oh, well, that was a good season for Brendan Nimmo. And that's a big reason. The analytics tell you the average don't matter. Yet, when your strikeouts go up 50 to 60, more 50 to 60 more strikeouts, well, there you go. Yeah, Dolo, I don't think Soto is more concerning because even though Soto has left men on base, which is a problem, he got on base the majority of these games that we played so far, right? This is Soto slumping. He's still getting on base, which if you haven't checked, you know who's drove in Soto a lot? Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso wouldn't have the RBIs he had if Soto hasn't got on. So Soto has been getting on base. At least Soto has been good. Now, his strikeouts are a little, higher than I would like, but he has been getting on base. And again, Brandon Nimmo, when he struggles, don't get on base at all. So you're basically a zero. I'm not saying Soto has been good. I'm not even going to put that word out there. He's been below average. But the one thing that Soto has done that basically has me saying it hasn't been a disaster yet is that he's still getting on base. And that actually helps your team. At the very least, if you're not doing anything else with the bat, get on base for somebody who is actually hitting. And Pete Alonso has. Like, that's the difference. So when Brandon Nimmo is not doing anything, like the same thing with Mark Vientos, right? If he doesn't hit a home run, and where is his home runs? He has 0, right? So when he doesn't hit his home runs or start driving the ball, Vientos doesn't walk a lot. He strikes out a ton. So you got Nimmo and Vientos most of the time back to back who are not heating up at all. You hope one of them start their hot streak soon, but they don't walk. They strike out too much. Their on base is a complete disaster. So that's the problem that I continue to fall back on when I see a guy slumping. Everybody's going to slump. We all know that. It's baseball. Everybody's going through a slump. But what do you do during that slump to help your team? Right? Juan Soto, below average. You can't say much more than that. Has he been terrible? You could be close. He hasn't been a disaster yet. But if he continues this, it's going to start being a disaster. Yeah, Keith, I agree. That's the difference. Like Juan Soto, I mean, how many full counts have Juan Soto got? Now, he struck out a couple of those times as well. But, he sees the pitches. He'll take his couple of walks. That approach is fine. And Juan Soto has always been that, that guy at the plate that has a great eye and takes his walks. He's not gonna swing most of the time out of the strike zone. But the thing is, he's been walking, but he also has been striking out a little bit more. Joel, we can say he's pressing. Again, I think most people will probably say that's the case, but we don't really know. It could just be a slump. Right? It really could be. I don't know. I don't know if it's pressing. I mean, it probably is, but we don't know for certain. I mean, we're all going to assume that, but that's what it is. At this point, that can only be the point. So that's the only thing we can think of. Yeah, Dolo, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're doing something to help the team, and Joel, that has been what Soto has done in his career. When he's not going well, he doesn't do the shuffle. All right, so I don't care if he doesn't do the shuffle. I really don't. I know that kind of makes him that, you could see that confidence in him when he does that, and he intimidates the pitcher sometimes. So I understand that, but again, I think Soto's going to be fine, to be quite honest with you, because he's missing his pitch. When he gets the pitch, he's fouling it back. He's out in front. So he's swinging at the right pitches, as you can see. So that's a good sign. He hit a couple of home runs in this series, so that's good. I do like to see that he's turning on balls, which he wasn't earlier on early in the season, which is also a good sign. So unfortunately, it's not good enough by any means, but it's all relying on Pete Alonso because nobody's doing nothing in front of him. Nobody's not doing anything behind him. So Pete Alonso is the Lone Ranger right now doing everything. And then when Alonso, who might have an offer, it's like, oh man, are we even going to win this game? Because we need everybody else to step up. So I truly believe that the Brandon Nimmo at bats, and we act like Brandon Nimmo's getting paid $6 million here. The guy's a $20+ million man. I mean, he's getting much more than he probably deserves. And I still thought that was a worse contract the day they signed Brandon Nimmo. And you can go back 2 years ago when they signed him to the extension, to the long-term deal. And I never liked that deal. I did not like that deal. I didn't think Nimmo was worth that deal. And, with all the injuries he has, with the change of approach, it's all coming together. And, it's probably the worst contract the Mets are going to give up for a while. And I don't even think Soto is going to be as bad as the Brandon Nimmo contract. But we'll see. It's not a good contract. You paid him as a center fielder. He's a left fielder. He's barely hanging on to left field at this point. And in probably a year or two, he's probably going to be the everyday DH. Like in 3-4 years, with another 4 years out of his contract, he's going to probably be an everyday DH. So you paid a center fielder who, right after you gave him that contract, ended up being a left fielder, and you're paying center fielder money for a left fielder. So it's frustrating. It's very annoying. But again, 44 men left on base in this 3-game series against the Twins. And even in the first game, they left, how many guys? Let's see. They left 15 men left on base, and that was the game they won. So they left 15 men left on base, and they won. But with the ease in that first game, and they still left on 15 men. They left 12 in the other game and 17 yesterday. They were 3 for 20 with men on base. Like, no, doesn't work. That is not good. And that's got to change. And again, with all those offensive problems, and this has gone on for the first 18 games of the season, the New York Mets on both road trips left the road trips 500. That is something that if somebody said to you to start the season, the Mets on the road are a 500 team, but they're 4 or 5 games over 500 at home, you're right at the pace of 95+ wins. So they're on a pace right now for 99 wins. If they continue this 500 road trips and a couple of games over on the homestands, they're over 95 wins. They're 95+ wins. So you're supposed to dominate at home, or at least be very good at home, right? They have 7 games at home against the Cardinals and the Phillies. You go 5-2. That is a very good homestand. And that's what they got to do. They'll be 10-3 in their first 2 homestands of the year. That would be very good. So they can do that. And again, if you continue to be 500, 1 game under, 1 game over 500, but right around the 500 mark on the road, and you're 4, 5, even 6 games between that 4 to 6 games over 500 at home, you're on a pace for 95 wins. So their pace right now is where you want them to be. You just hope they play a little bit better, because again, you can't even put a handful of games saying that the offense basically won their games. Maybe 4 games this year, maybe 5 if we're pushing it a little bit. the majority of the time is the pitching has been outstanding and basically won you these games. So that has to change because the pitching is not going to hold up forever. The starting pitching has been looking a little bit better. The bullpen has still really good. I know they had a little bit of an issue in the Twin Series, but overall been still really good. At some point, that's gonna change a little bit. I'm not gonna say they're gonna be terrible, but they're gonna start giving up runs. And something like yesterday where they gave up 3 runs prior to extra innings, and the pitching kept them in the ball game to have that rally in the 8th to tie the ball game. But again, we saw what happened in the top of the 10th. It was just terrible at bats. And eventually the Twins are going to win. You don't score nothing in the top half, there's a pretty good chance the home team is going to win. So it's got to be better. The offense needs a kick in their ass. I know somebody was saying today or yesterday on X that, give Juan Soto a standing ovation, get him feeling good, that we're behind him and all that stuff. I'm not going to tell somebody what to do. I'm not going to tell a fan who spent their money what to do at a ball game. Right? I think if you get paid, you should do your job and do it well. And I'm not saying they're not trying. I'm not saying Juan Soto's not trying, Nimmo's not trying. We all hope they are. Right? That's what we always hope for. Because at the end of the day, if they play bad or they play good, they're still cashing that check every 2 weeks. So they just have to be better. They really have to be better. And you hope this homestand gets it going a little bit, right? You start this homestand. It's a 4-game series against the Cardinals. It's basically a weekend series, Thursday through Sunday. And you know what? I think you need to take 3 out of 4, to be quite honest. I know that might be pushing it a little bit, but the Cardinals are not good. They're a 500 team. Arenado's is off to a decent start, a pretty good start. The Cardinals pitching has been, I would say, average, maybe a little bit above average, but they're not a good team. You're at home. Take 3 out of 4 because you're going to be starting after that series against one of your division rival who is right behind you, a game behind you in the standings. I know it's early to say that, but the Mets are in first place. The Phillies are in second place. That series, if we're going to remain close in record for the entire year, and most people expect that, these games are going to matter because who knows about tiebreakers. I know that's so early to say going on to 19th game of the season, but we have to start talking about that. You're facing a good Phillies team that is coming into your ballpark, and your offense hasn't been playing well. Now, again, you got 4 games against the Cardinals. If your offense starts to hit, you probably feel a little bit better about the offense going into the Philly series. So we'll have to see. And Keith, I'm not there yet being concerned either about Juan Soto, because if he wasn't walking at all and his strikeouts are where they are without the walks and he's not getting on base, that would concern me. That's when I would be like, all right, something's going on here. But he's still getting on base, right? If I'm not mistaken, 15 times in 18 games, he's been on base. I think maybe it's 16. I think it's 15, but it might be 16. So the majority of the games, he still gets on base. And again, that is not what we want only from Juan Soto. Look, I still want him to get on base, but he needs to produce more. We all understand that. But that's why I'm not worried, because his eye has still been pretty good. His strikeouts are up a little bit, for sure, more than usual. But I honestly think he's trying to do too much still. I think he is. I think he's swinging at balls out of the strike zone because he's trying to do too much. And again, that could mean he's pressing. I think he's trying to do too much. And again, when you have a hot Pete Alonso, honestly, I'd rather you take your walks than strike out. So again, I think he's still going to have a really good season. I think Juan Soto is going to be fine. But at you're home again, right? Your first home series wasn't great. You had 2 home runs on the road. He had better at-bats in this Twin series. I know he left a ton of men left on base. If I'm not mistaken, I think he left 8 men left on base in this series against the Twins, but he had better at-bats. His balance at the plate was better. He's got to continue to use that momentum into this home series against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are hitting really good. Yeah, exactly. Well, Jason, that's what the Mets have to, Griffin Cannon isn't, he can be a good strikeout guy, but again, when he's on, he's going to pitch more of the contact, I think, and he should pitch more to contact. And again, he's coming off being sick, so who knows how much energy he's going to have. He might be out of here in the fourth inning, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Mendoza is going to keep him long. Obviously, when he's sick, he had the flu. You probably lost a couple of pounds. Your energy is probably not 100%. Because, he was supposed to pitch yesterday, and I doubt he's 100% today on the mound. So if he gives us 5 innings, a couple of runs, you're going to have to take it coming off the flu. So, especially if he was going to pitch yesterday. So, again, look, the Cardinals can win any game. The Mets can win any game. I'm not going to say the Mets. I don't think the Mets are going to win today. You can have that opinion. That's yours. But, it's baseball. Anybody can beat anybody at any given moment. And you're right about that. The Cardinals are hitting for average. They're a pretty good contact hitting team. That can be a problem. But also, I think if the Mets score the way they should be scoring, I think if the Mets score 5 runs a ball game on average, they should be winning the majority of those games. And, well, easy, I agree with you. I think Soto is pulling off a little bit more. That goes into his balance at the plate. And, what we saw in his first at-bat at spring training, that's what he needs to do. All 3 of his home runs have been the right field. So he's been pulling off 100%. He needs to go to left center. And again, when you're slumping, you tend to pull off more, right? You tend to be not as balanced. You try to look the other way, but your body, sometimes your mind and body doesn't work, right? If you play baseball before, you've all been in a slump. I've been in a slump. You tend to pull off a little bit. You're balanced. You don't feel comfortable in the batter's box. That's just how it goes. And when you usually get out of a slump, it's not usually the home runs that you hit. It's usually that base hit between, if you're a lefty, between short and third, or if you're a righty, between first and second, and you start hitting the ball the other way, because that means you're staying back more, letting the ball travel more to the plate, and you're not over swinging. You're not trying to do too much, and you're letting the ball travel deeper into the plate, and that's when you start to get out of your slump. Not the home runs. The home runs just shows that you had good contact on a ball, but you're still pulling off. Even the one ball that went foul, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. He crushed that ball, but he was so out in front. That means he's jumpy. That means he's still way out in front. His balance at the plate is still not there. The 2 home runs were nice, but that still doesn't get you out of your slump. Always hitting the ball the other way helps you get out of that slump. So the offensive woes continue. The Mets, with those offensive woes, leaving 44 men left on base, ended up being a 3-3 road trip. Again, a 500 road trip is nothing to, ride home about and be excited about, but it's what you need to do on the road as long as you take care of business at home. And again, 7 games at home, 5-2 should be good, right? You should be able to do that. And they need to do that in this 7-game series at home. You can talk, if 5-2 is good, is 4-3 good? I think 5-2 is where you need to be. You got to be a couple of games. Again, I think you need to be 4 to 6 games over 500, at this point in the season at home. So if you're there around 4 to 6 games over 500, obviously they're 5-1 in their first homestand. See what they do here. If you're between 4 and 6 games over 500 in his first 2 home series of the year, I think you're in really good shape. And then you go back on the road again. But overall, you just got to be better. And I want to, again, you're home. And, Chris is in the chat. What up, CP? And we'll be on the pregame later today at 5:45. Yeah, the clutch hitting is not there. And we'll definitely get into that during the show today. But that has been the major problem. And it's been all season. So, even the games where they won, by 5, 6, 7 runs, and it's only a few of those games. But even in those games, right? Just look at the first game against the Twins. They left 15 men left on base in that game, 14 men left on base in that game, and they still won by 5 runs. So, that continues to be the problem even with wins. And that has to change. So, is that going to happen? We all hope so. this homestand against a Cardinals team that is 500 at the moment. They're not bad. They're not good. They're kind of in between, right? They're a team that can clearly win a series against you, right? It would be a disappointment if you split a 4-game series, especially going against the Phillies for the last 3 games of the homestand. That's when you got to take advantage of the Cardinals. You got to win 3 out of 4. And hopefully they can do that, because you go into the Phillies series. If you lose that series against the Phillies, you still have a 5-2 homestand. You feel a little shitty that you lost against the Phillies 2 out of 3, but you still have a 5-2 homestand. Is not bad. But I just want to see the offense get better. And they're right now, I think they're below average. Can you get above average? At the end of your homestand, I want to be above average. I want to be saying Soto has been taking better at bats. He's hitting the ball the other way with force. Alonso's doing what he's doing. Lindor, is he stepping up a little bit more? Is he doing better at the plate? Is Brandon Nimmo waking the hell up and stop swinging at every first pitch? Same thing with Mark Vientos. Can he stop swinging at those balls that are 2 feet outside the zone? That's what I want to see. I want to see better at bats. You're at home. You got the advantage. Get it going. The last topic of the day, guys, Jeff McNeil, center field option. How can I say this politely? No. No, 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 no. Now, again, if there's nowhere to go, if you have massive injuries and you just need somebody to fill the gap, can McNeil play center field? In a pinch, yes. But the options that you have, like Luisano Acuna, and you still have Tyrone Taylor. And again, Tyrone Taylor is getting exposed, guys. Me and Chris talked about this on many pre-games, on many shows. Tyrone Taylor is a nice supplemental player. He is a backup. He is a 4th outfielder. His best play for this team and him as a player is when he's a 4th outfielder, when you're not trying to ask him to do way too much. All right, he did take over the job against Bader last year, but again, he's going to get exposed. Tyrone Taylor is a solid player. He's a professional, but you expose Tyrone Taylor, and it doesn't benefit him offensively at all. He's still going to be very good defensively. I know he bobbled the ball at the end of the game yesterday, but again, that happens. He's trying to make a quick throw to the plate to stop the winning run from scoring. That shit happens. But Tyrone Taylor's he's not a starting center fielder. He's a 4th outfielder. And he fits this team better as a 4th outfielder, not a starting center fielder. That's why I know a lot of people, don't like Jose Siri, and everybody was clamoring for Tyrone Taylor. But overall, you're hurting his team. Who would you rather have come off the bench late in the game for an at-bat? Jose Siri or Tyrone Taylor? Right? Tyrone Taylor has shown you coming off the bench with his clutch hitting, and he's just a better performer off the bench. Jose Siri, yes, I know he's not a very good hitter at the plate, and he provides very good defense. But that's why Siri was starting more over Tyrone Taylor, because what you need from both of these guys, especially Tyrone Taylor, is what you get as a 4th outfielder. He's better for this team as a 4th outfielder. Now, I don't know why the Mets are using McNeil as a center field option. Maybe they don't think Acuna can play there every day. I disagree. I think Acuna can play there. Again, give him the opportunity. What the hell is the point? If McNeil comes back, put Acuna in the center field, put McNeil at second base, and hope for the best. I mean, Acuna is not probably going to be Tyrone Taylor or Jose Siri defensively, but be a little bit above average. Catch the balls that you're supposed to catch, and occasionally use your speed to run a ball down the gap. So I'm not sure why. And I mean, I guess I understand why they're trying McNeil out in center field. They just want to have more options, right? McNeil left and right field, he's fine in those corners. He's obviously a second baseman. So I don't know why they're doing that. I think they just want another option just in case. Just in case. For whatever it might happen. Because again, right now you're technically working with one center fielder, technically kind of, work in progress center fielder in Luisano Acuna. So you technically have one center fielder on this roster. I know Nimmo, but Nimmo can't play center field every day. You're just waiting for him to go on the IL if he plays center field every day. Keep Nimmo in left field and keep him healthy. Even though he's not doing anything with the bat, you still need Nimmo overall for this team. And when he does get hot, that's when you really need Nimmo. So Jeff McNeil, center field, playing in the minors, in his rehab assignment. What is that going to lead to once he becomes eligible for the roster? Once they bring him up, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I'd love to not see Jeff McNeil in center field at all. I mean, maybe Jeff McNeil will surprise us and actually play good in center field. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to say yes or no. But right now I am saying no because I don't want to see that. I'd rather see Acuna there, who's actually played center field in the minor leagues, a decent amount of games. Not a ton, but a decent amount. And they were trying him out when they had Jet Williams or running Mauricio and Vientos and Beatty, when they really had nowhere to put Luis Acuna, especially when McNeil was there as well. So the Mets 3-3 road trip, not terrible, not great, average. The biggest concern is the offense. That has to change. Lindor, Soto, Nimmo, Vientos, all these guys got to start hitting. They got to start doing what made them good in the first place. Why people were so excited about Mark Vientos. Why Brandon Nimmo got that contract in the first place was because what he was doing that made him very good. Francisco Lindor, the errors got to stop. Like, you've killed 2 games because of your errors. I mean, offensively, Francisco Lindor is probably having a better April than he ever had as a New York Met. So it's kind of an odd situation where Francisco Lindor, because he's not terrible, but he's not very good. Like, it's in between. That's got to be a little bit better. Juan Soto, yeah, you're walking. Congratulations. But you got to do a hell of a lot more. You've been leaving a ton of men left on base. You got to be more productive, man. Let's go. Mark Vientos, start hitting the ball the other way. Your best power is to right center. Brandon Nimmo, start hitting the ball the other way. Everybody is pulling off. I don't want to hear just about pressing. Do your freaking job. Start hitting the ball the other way. That goes for Juan Soto. That goes for Brandon Nimmo. That goes for Mark Vientos. All these guys got to start hitting the ball the other way. Their best approach at the plate is going to right center and left center. Just what we talked about Pete Alonso, what he was doing in spring training. He took it into the season. It's been great for him. These guys got to start doing that as well. Can't keep on pulling off at everything and have these high strikeouts and not doing anything with runners in scoring position. That has to change, or we're going to be talking about a very bad homestand. And that cannot happen. You're 4 games over 500. You're still in first place by a game. I know we're not talking about first place, second place, but it's better to be in first place than where the Braves are, right? So you're in first place right now. Play better. And you're in first place without playing your best overall game. Just imagine if this team is clicking on all cylinders, how good they can be, especially with the pitching being very damn good. So, guys, I want to thank you for watching Mets Talk Live. I will be with you later today on the pregame show with myself and Chris, 5:45. So make sure you're there. We're going to obviously recap the Twin Series, recap the road trip quickly in that show. And then obviously we're going to preview the series against the Cardinals, and we're going to go into depth about the game tonight with Griffin Cannon on the mound. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to Mets Talk Live. I'll see you later today on the pregame. Enjoy the rest of your couple of hours before pregame. Let's go Mets, and I'll see you later tonight, guys. Later.
Put Bob on the mic, spitting truth from the heights. Queens unite under stadium lights. Bright nights, 7 train rides. Dreams born in the real hum. Brooklyn to Queens. Yeah, we all about that outcome. This